on the occasion of the 1-year anniversary of their deity installation. Vikrani told me tonight it was on the same Ekadashi last year. Hare Krishna. It was on the same Ekadashi last year that deities were installed. And it gives us an opportunity to come together to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and to hear some small discussion about Krishna, and then to honor the Mahaprasad of the deities. I think you all know my associates. This is Anandamurti, this is Yogendra, and Shiv Charan, and Radhesham Vilas, Instagram superstar. Radhi Radhi. Radhi Radhi. This is Sri Gopi Ballava. Radhe is on the stage tonight. Everybody in Vrindavan is always going Radhi Radhi. And now we have Radhe on the stage. Well, we're very happy to be here with you all. We've had a long day today, a wonderful day. Yesterday, Shiv Charan and I decided that early this morning we would go to a very blissful place down by the end of Govardhan Hill called Chandra Sarovar. Has anyone here ever been to Chandra Sarovar? It is so beautiful. If any of you come to Vrindavan, and if you go to Govardhan, make sure you go there. It's a very special holy place because this is where Sri Krishna and Sri Radha perform their springtime Rasa Leela. This holy season, the 40 days of holy, ending with the holy celebration itself, is the time of the spring Rasa. And it's mostly conducted in that area, whereas the autumn Rasa is conducted on the banks of the Jamuna. And it's a place of the Vallabh Sampradaya, and it's also the place of Surdasa's Samadhi. Surdas, the great Vaishnava poet, he lived there for how many years? His whole life. He lived there his entire life. And those who are familiar with the songs of Surdas, you heard his poetry, how overflowing with bhav and prem his poetry is. And he was absolutely blind, but he wrote this ecstatic poetry about Krishna. And Shiv Charan was telling me today how there's a small temple there, and there's Surdasji's Samadhi, and then there's Chandra Sarovar. And in that small temple, there's the asana of Shripad Vallabhacharya and his son Vitalnath. And there's also a Gopal deity. And every day the puja pujari would dress the Gopal deity, and Surdas, who was absolutely blind, he would go into the temple to have darshan of Gopal. And while he was there, he would begin just spontaneously creating poetry, glorifying the way the deity was dressed on that day. And he would describe the color of the outfit, how the outfit was placed, what ornaments were there. He was blind. But it's said that the way to truly see Krishna is with eyes of devotion, or his eyes of devotion that have been covered with the ointment of love. And he had those types of eyes, even though his eyes didn't work for the material things, because he was so perfect and so pure in his devotion to Krishna, he could see Krishna. So he would regularly go in and just start creating poetry about how beautiful the dress was and what Gopal was doing. So one day, the pujari decided that he was going to, test / prank Surdasji. So what he did is on that day, he didn't put any clothes on Gopal. And he just put one pearl necklace on Gopal. And that day when Surdasji came in, the pujari was waiting to see what type of poetry would come out. He was saying, today my Lord is in his most beautiful swarup because he is naked. And you can see his ecstatic transcendental form. Generally when we go to temples, we always see such beautiful shringar, which is done for the deities. Very beautiful dress and very beautiful ornaments. But Krishna is so beautiful that the Bhagavatam says he is Sarva Bhushanam Bhushanam, that he is the supreme ornament of all ornaments. And when they put ornaments on the Lord, just by his beauty, he makes the ornaments more beautiful. Instead of like ourselves wanting to put some ornaments to try to make ourselves look more beautiful. When they put ornaments on Krishna, Krishna makes the ornaments become more beautiful. So such a nice place as Chandrasarovar. And it was very cool. It was interesting because it was almost chilly in the morning and absolutely silent, different from our Vrindavan now. Our Vrindavan now is always so much rush and so busy and noise 24 hours a day. When I first went to Vrindavan in '76, it was just practically dust, no buildings. I was telling Vikramji, maybe 25% of the day we'd have electricity. We only had salty water, no cars in Vrindavan, no bikes in Vrindavan. There are hardly any rickshaws in Vrindavan, like regular cycle rickshaws in Vrindavan. It was silent all the time. And when you went there, you just felt so enchanted that at any moment, Radha and Krishna could step out from behind a tree. It was just like that. Vrindavan is still Chintamani. it's still the spiritual world. But now it's like such a rush all the time. It's like our Anandamurti and Yogi, they have an apartment that's in one of the apartment complexes. Their apartment, maybe, they live on the 3rd or 4th floor, but maybe it's like 10 meters off the Gurugram at a major junction. I mean, you folks must be hearing sound 24 hours also. My small house is in a place called Radharaman Bagicha. We built the house 35 years ago, and it was absolutely silent. There was nothing. And now it's like I'm living next to the Gurugram highway going to the airport. It's busy all the time. This Chandra Sarovar was so silent. And it said that it's called Chandra Sarovar because the moon became so astonished watching Krishna's Rasa Leela that it wanted to see more and more. So the moon hid itself inside the lake so it could look out and see Krishna's Rasa dancing going on over there. It was very, very wonderful. So we were there, you know, we sat there and we chanted japa, no sound whatsoever, you know. Only, like, we were sitting next to like a little Shiv mandir, and all of the old, you know, nannies would come down to the sarovar and they would take, you know, a lota full of water, and they would go up and ring a bell and they would bathe Lord Shiva. That was the only sound that was out there. It was very, very blissful. And then coming here this evening, so we had nectar in the morning, and also we're having nectar in the evening, being here in our association. The program is for the deities. Doyal, Nitai, Gaura, Hari. And everybody from Indian culture, they're familiar with the worship of the Archa-Vigraha, or the form of the Lord. But we have to understand that this form, we should always be conscious that when we're performing deity worship, it's not that we're doing something for a metal statue or a marble statue or a painting, but actually Krishna manifests himself in that form. And Krishna is requested to come and live in the form. And then in proportion to the devotion that the bhakta will show to the deity, then the deity reciprocates. It's a very wonderful process. It's one of the very, very highly recommended angas of bhakti. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, he said that there are 5 particularly powerful processes of bhakti. He said the first is sadhusanga, meaning having the association of saintly people, because in their association we will hear about Krishna. Sadhusanga first, and he's a non-kirtan, always chanting the holy names. Recently it was holy, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day is on that Purnima. And at the time, he's Krishna who came to this world to give us this process of chanting Harinam, the pure chanting of the holy name in order to attain Prema Bhakti. And the evening that he appeared, not only was it a full moon, but there was an eclipse of the moon also. And at that time in Vedic society, when there was an eclipse, people would always go like to a holy river, and they would stand in the river and they would chant, you know, Hare Krishna, or Hari, Hari, or they would chant some name of the Lord to ward off any inauspiciousness. So even the night that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, already he had inaugurated the loud chanting of the holy name. It was going on. And so he said, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan. Meaning all of us should hear Bhagavat. We should hear Krishna's instructions that he delivers to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, which culminates in, he explains the science to Arjuna, which makes it very logical that one should give one's life into the hands of the Lord. His conclusion is Sarvadharmam Parityajyam Ekam Sharanam. Just abandon other things and take my shelter. And he says, if you do that, aham tam sarva papebhyo. I take all of your pap, moksha ishami. I give you moksha. Mahasuchaha, don't fear. Don't be afraid to do it. And then there's the discussions of Krishna's activities in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's very important for all of us, if we wish to develop our lives, and if we wish to perfect the human form of life, that we always hear Krishna's name, and we always hear Krishna's katha. It's not by karma, or jnana, or yoga, or tapasya, any of these different processes which may be purifying. But the ultimate purifying process is to always hear the name of Krishna and always hear the activities of Krishna. So, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, he says, Mathuravas. He says, live in a holy place like Mathura. And my Guru Maharaj, he always used to say, wherever there is the beautiful seva of the Archa Vigraha, you know, Vrindavan is created. Like here we have we're very fortunate here in the Delhi, Gurugram area. There are, I think, 18 Hare Krishna temples. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful temples with the beautiful form of the deity and always Harinam going on and always Krishna Katha going on. And so these are like the embassies of the spiritual world here in Delhi. You know, it's like so many embassies are here. And you go there and you do seva and you hear there, and it's like just the same as living in Vrindavan or living in Mathura. And then the last point he makes is Sri Murti Shraddhaya Seva. That we worship the deity, but we worship the deity with Shraddha, meaning we understand this is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we show our love and devotion and our seva, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Jejatamam prapadyante tansatai bhavajanya. As they surrender, I reciprocate. So the more we show our devotion to the deities, the more the deities will reciprocate with us by giving us their pure bhakti. We shouldn't think the deities are just statues. The deities are Krishna. There's an interesting story that is told in a book called Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think practicing this kind of devotees, you all know Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. But it's the biography of the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was compiled by a self-realized soul whose name was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And tells a story about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after he left his family life at a young age and he accepted sannyas so he could go out and give this knowledge of Krishna and Harinam to everybody in the length and breadth of India. He was traveling south, and he came to one temple, and this temple is in Orissa, and the temple is the temple of Shakshi Gopal. Has anyone been to the temple of Shakshi Gopal? Ooh, so many. I was there also. Generally, they don't let white folks in, but I went there in 1977, and the guard at the temple was a little, grandpa, little skinny grandpa. He had a big sash over his, and he had a badge that said guard, and he wanted to stop me going in, and one of the pandas there said, "He's a big boy, I think you should let him go inside." So I had darshan of Shakshi Gopal. This story talks about how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, he stopped in the village where Shakshi Gopal was staying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate, Nityananda, related to Lord Chaitanya the story of Shakshi Gopal. Now Shakshi means witness, right? So the witness Gopal. And the story goes like this. There were two Brahmins from a place in Andhra, and it was called Vidyanagar. And one old Brahmin who was like from a very aristocratic, wealthy family, and then a very pure, but Brahmin, but not from an aristocratic family, and not very elevated situation. But the elder Brahmin wanted to go on pilgrimage, and so the younger Brahmin said, "I will take you. This will be my seva." And the younger Brahmin told him, he said, "I serve you." He said, "Because I'm serving you, it is like I'm serving my Krishna. I serve you with love." And this is the mentality of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava, and Krishna himself says that it's better to serve my devotee than it is to serve me. And so many Vaishnavacharyas, they have said, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistadapaya Chikeva. That no one has ever been able to enter into Golokdham unless they've served Vaishnavas. So this younger Brahmin said, "Sir, I will take you, I will care for you, I will make sure that you encounter no difficulties." And so they left this Vidyanagar and Andhra, and they started going north. And they passed by Gaya, and they went by Varanasi, and they went by Ayodhya, and they finally came to Mathura. and they came to Vrindavan. And when they came to Vrindavan at that time, and this is a very, very long time ago, near where the temple of Govinda is now in Vrindavan, there was a temple of Gopal. And Gopal is very beautiful. And when they got there, they were sitting in front of the Gopal deity, and this elder Brahmin told the younger Brahmin, he said, I am so thankful for you that you have taken me on this pilgrim. I haven't experienced any difficulty because you have cared for me so much. He said, I am so grateful that I want to give you something in charity. And the younger Brahmin said, Sir, I don't really need anything. I'm serving you like I would serve Krishna, and therefore my heart is satisfied. And the elder Brahmin, he said, no. He said, I want to give you my youngest daughter in marriage. And when the young Brahmin heard that, he said, Sir, please don't say like that. You come from a very high class position. I'm from like a lower class position. When you get back to your home, you have your wife, you have your elder sons, you have your community. They're never going to agree with this. And he said, no, I want to do this. You've taken care of me so selflessly. I want to give you my daughter. And the young Brahmin boy was saying, but they won't accept. They won't accept. And he was saying, no, I must do this. I must do this. And then the younger Brahmin said, okay. He said, Sir, I don't really want anything from you. I just want seva. But if you want to do this, you please come in front of the Gopal deity and let Gopal act as my witness. Tell Gopal what your intention is. And so the elder Brahmin went before the Gopal deity and he said, with all my truth and honesty, I want to give my youngest daughter to this young Brahmin because he has served me with so much love. Said it in front of Gopal. Gopal heard. So then they returned back down to Vijayanagar, and the young Brahmin, he was going about his life, and the elder Brahmin, he was getting nervous. And he was nervous because of two things. One thing, he had promised, he had made a vow in front of the deity that he was going to give his youngest daughter to this Brahmin boy. On the other side, he was nervous because he knew his family was going to go crazy. Finally, at one point, he got his became a little brave, and he announced to his family, this young Brahmin boy, he served me so purely, so selflessly. He said, I have decided to give my youngest daughter in charity. And his family absolutely went crazy. The wife said, you do this, I will drink poison, I will die. And then, the sons came up and said, how can you do this? You're from such a high class position, he's from such a low class position, it will never work. And he said, but I promised in front of the deity. And they said, the son was like very clever. He was sort of like a clever advocate. And he said, look, you can say that you don't actually remember what you told the Brahmin boy. And then I will do everything else. So the elder Brahmin, he said, okay, let's give it a try. And then he called an assembly and he brought the younger Brahmin boy there. Now actually, the younger Brahmin boy, he started becoming upset because he was thinking, he's going to break his position of being a truthful Brahmin if he doesn't do what he said in front of the deity. I'm worried for his reputation only. It's not that I want something. I'm worried for his reputation. So he called an assembly. When he called the assembly, he narrated what had happened, and he said, this elder Brahmin, quite on his own, he offered me his youngest daughter in marriage. I told him it would never work, but he insisted, and he spoke this in front of the Gopal deity. He made a vow in front of the Gopal deity. And at that time, the elder Brahmin, being pushed by his son, said, I don't actually recall, truthfully what I said. And then at that point, the Brahmin's son got up and he said, this young boy, he's a rascal. He knew that my father was rich. He took my father on Gurugram, stole all of his money, gave him like poisonous intoxications to take. This boy is just a rascal. The boy was very sober. He said, no, it's not like that at all. He said, he really made this vow. I'm being truthful as a Brahmin. He's being truthful as a Brahmin. It's only his son and his family. Both of them are trying to break our vows of truthfulness. And he became very upset. He said he promised this in front of the Gopal deity. And so, the sons and the family members said, very good, in front of the whole community, very good. Let Gopal come here and attest to that fact that he said it. Because they're thinking, how is it? This is like over 1,000 kilometers away, 1,500 kilometers. How's he going to get a big deity to come down here? So the boy said, to protect his vow of truthfulness, I will do that. So the boy walked back to Vrindavan. And then he got a call from Gopal. And he went to the Gopal temple, or went to the Gopal deity, and he started speaking to Gopal, and he said, my dear Lord, this situation happened, and they're trying to destroy this man's honesty, and they're trying to say that I'm dishonest. But we're exclusively devoted and faithful to your lotus feet. These people are just being rascals. And I made him, I made him. Gopal said, time out. Gopal said, hurry up, you're talking too much. He said, and I made him promise in front of you. So please, my dear Lord, be kind and come with me and act as a witness. And at that time, the deity Gopalji began to speak. And the deity told the boy, he said, I can understand your predicament very, very clearly. He said, but there is a problem. Who ever heard of deities walking? And the Brahmin boy looked up and said, who ever heard of deities talking? He said, if you can talk, you can walk. So when he said that, Gopalji said, very good. He said, I will walk behind you all the way down. He said, but you must not turn around and look at me. He said, you will always hear my ankle bracelets. Then at the end of the day, when we finish walking, you must cook me 1 kilo of rice and feed it to me every day. That's a kilo of rice is a lot of rice. But I guess, Krishna gets hungry if he's walking all day. So he said, you must cook 1 kilo of rice. When you start walking the next day, you cannot cook. And so the young Brahmin said, yes, my Lord, if you will act as my witness and save our honor, save both of our honor, certainly I will do that. So they started walking. They walked all the way from Vrindavan down to Andhra. And all along the way, he could hear the ankle bracelets of Gopal behind him. And he cooked in the evening, and he offered to Gopal. And then they finally came to Vidyanagar, and he said, and the boy was thinking, now I've come to my village, and the blessed Gopal has come with me to act as my witness. Now, I will call the people. And he turned around and he looked at Gopal. And when he looked at Gopal, Gopal just stopped right there. And Gopal said, call the villagers. And so he called a big assembly of people and called the elder Brahman and his family. And then Gopal began to speak to everybody in the village. I mean, you can imagine, it's like we worship deities, but this deity is speaking to everyone. And the deity is telling, and the deity began to say, yes, what this Brahmin boy is saying is true. And the father said, I told you, my sons, it was the truth. And Gopal said, and I have come here, to save the reputation of these two Brahmins. And so at that time, Gopalji stayed there. They worshipped him there with great opulence. And the young Brahmin married the daughter of the wealthy Brahmin. And as the story goes, they lived happily ever after. But then something happened later on. And what happened later on is that the king of Orissa decided to attack the king of Vidyanagar. And when he went there and he attacked the kingdom, he saw this deity of Gopal, and the king was so overwhelmed with his love for this Gopal deity that he took Gopal back to Jagannath Puri. And he placed Gopal had his own place inside the Jagannath Mandir. Who here has been to the Jagannath Mandir? Oh, so many people. We can't go there because we're white. But Gopal was living in there. But then something happened. What happened was this. The Lord Jagannath, one night, came in dream to the king. And he said, Maharaj, get this guy out of here. Maharaj said, what is the problem? And he said, every day they're bringing all of these bog offerings to me. And when the sweets pass Gopal, the guy eats all the sweets. He said, I'm not getting any sweets. Get him out of here. So then the king, he built a temple about 12 or 15 or 20 kilometers, something like that, outside of Jagannath Puri. And Shakshi Gopal lives there now. So the next time any of you all go down to see Lord Jagannath, make sure you go and see Shakshi Gopal also. So the deity can walk. The deity can talk. The deity can bless you in so many ways. All the problems that you have in your life, if you give your hearts and love to to the deity will take your problems away. Like we hear so many kathas that, our biggest enemies are not the enemies outside, but our biggest enemies are the enemies inside. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Matsarya, Mad, all big enemies inside. But Krishna's not a small person. Look how easy it was for Ram, just with one arrow, to finish Ravana. Look how Narsingha, to protect and reciprocate the love of his devotee Prahlad, he finished the Hiranyakasipu. If Krishna can take away such big demons, Krishna can take away all the enemies that we have in our hearts if we just serve with love. So, it's a nice celebration for the deities of Bridrani and Vikram. And we hope that forever and ever you all keep serving the deities with love and devotion. And that, in 200 years when you all go someplace else, then, Jivan and Jia carry on, and after 200 years when they go someplace else, then their children will carry on, and the deities will just keep showering with love. So deity worship is something very, very wonderful. So, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Madhuravas, Srimurti Shradaya Seva. So we've spoken a little bit about Krishna, and we've had some explanation of deity worship. Now we'll have some Nam Kirtan, okay? Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Advaita